In the late Elizabethan era, the girl of my dreams and I moved to the house at the end of the high street, and with it we got a green, half-acre liability, a responsibility we've yet to fully process. This is Alex, the aforementioned goddess. I am Jamie, a shuffle-wearing shenaniganer. Our first house as a married couple was a modest Victorian terrace, with a tarmac box to the rear. It was famous as the nesting place of London's largest rodent, the slippery bin weasel we call Purdy. For the rat, the prospect of moving to the Cotswolds was quite thrilling, an unrestricted wilderness for her to scuttle about in. Ivy, buxus, and a sprawling wisteria. A week's worth of exercise ratting from one end of the garden to the other. A bargain then, until we realized, much like our toddler, it just keeps growing. Putting the cry in Christ, that's a lot of foliage. 'Twas shady and damp, with some worrisome walls and unstable stonework, and to say the wisteria was rampant is an exercise in chronic understatement, and so began the tidy-up. 'Twas in fact two wisterias fighting for supremacy. I never knew Buddleia could grow so large, and an inconvenient curtain wall, cloaking the bottom half of the garden entirely in shade, but disguising our plastic swimming pool structure. My first mission was deconstruction, and the removal of the two non-native pines that dominated what little view we had from the house. We got wood, and I began piling up the stones strewn about the flowerbeds. All our paths were covered in a grossly offensive red tarmac, worryingly similar to the oxblood red carpet inside the house. Listed building consent sought. Obstacles blocking a view of the garden could be removed. We'll just add it to the pile. Secret garden vibes aside, there's no substitute for a dose of daylight. That blue-tarped structure was apparently the sunroom, aka a rotting mess, with the wall reduced to knee height, and more surplus stone than we knew what to do with. We engaged in a little light planting, and my favourite, a bit of pea shingle. Now for the rest of this infernal plot. What we call the long lawn was turned over and turfed, and again with the wonder that is pea shingle. It looks infinitely more accessible. And where the pronounced pines were once positioned, a home for the sunroom hardcore. You guessed it, I pea shingled all over the place, and every ounce of reclaimed wallstone was repurposed. I'd never yearned for an urn, but direct access to this terracey bit was much needed, and again with the planting. The deep bed to the left was bookended by a shabby old shed, and I required a private place to tinker with my mowers. Don't we all? There's very little some sage paint from Screwfix won't soften, and the pleasure I get from people starting to use the garden is almost something I'm unable to articulate. An 8-foot wall can give a touch of the prison vibe, so we needed something to soften the sightline. Silver birch, of course. Stop it. Is it too silly of me to say that I consider a tree an investment? The annual anxiety of wondering whether it has survived the sunless season gives me something to do over the winter. Next on the list, a strange circular bed home to an aging pear tree, and with more stone just pushed into place. The tree will eventually die. Do visit us again in 2034 to see what we replace it with. I digress. We called in the professionals for the pointing. Inexpressible revulsion. Every bit of lawn not bordered by tarmac was gilded with metal definition. And just when I thought things looked okay, I'm told that 2 additional flower beds might bring a little colour to the big box hedge. What joy. Given that this area had spent nearly half a century in shade, it deserved more than a little TLC. What are you doing? Never one to not make the most of my spare time, and no doubt heavily influenced by her Instagram feed. Mrs. Riverside wanted for a raised bed or two. I was far more content swapping out paving stones for path edging, and investigating the familiar dink of stone under spade. One thing led to another, and a bit of Victorian brick winked at me from under the long lawn. What a result, a neat little parking spot for my robot lawnmower. I've checked, and it goes no further under the lawn, thankfully. Here's a before, and that is a now. And with mid-spring 2026 upon us, we settle in for another sunny season. Rattly Cassidy takes her therapy where she can, and the bones of the garden are fallen back on until the flowers come along. Sadly, the pea shingle in the courtyard where the sunroom used to be has become more than a little of a nuisance to Mrs. Riverside. It's the dust. And so we have an overhaul in the offing. You lucky lot. But for now, you'll hate it.